This is the Mets Postcast, your instant game reaction for the New York Mets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
For the second straight night, the Mets got great starting pitching. Their offense hit 6 home runs, and they now have an opportunity to sweep the Atlanta Braves after defeating them tonight by a final of 9-2. Welcome into the Mets Postcast live here on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel. You can always listen to us back in the Locked On Mets podcast feed. I'm your Postcast host, Chris Schubert, here with you after each and every Mets game throughout the course of the season. And boy, does it feel good when the Mets get all of the pieces of the puzzle working together. It was another night where the starting pitching set the tone, where the starting pitching was the quality that the Mets have been asking for, and it set an example for the rest of this game. And the offense backed up Clay Holmes tonight. 6 home runs, 4 stolen bases. We'll make sure to shout out all of the important performances, especially Starling Marte playing great out there in left field. But I want to start tonight's postcast by tipping the cap and talking about Clay Holmes doing something that Mets haven't had a lot of lately, but now they've had it for 2 straight nights.
This is what you'll be talking about.
A starter going 6 innings for back-to-back games for the New York Mets. What is this sorcery? But they certainly got it tonight from Clay Holmes, and it was following a very similar script for Clay. 6 up, 6 down. It's kind of the way he started a lot of his starts recently, being in command, being in control, and he hits that wall in the 3rd, mostly the 4th inning, and it was the 4th inning where the walls came crashing down because it was a pair of walks to start the inning, and we've mentioned it here on the postcast many a times. These leadoff walks for these starters seem to be what begins their downfall. It is that leadoff base runner and making it easy for the Braves to have an immediate scoring opportunity. And after taking a 3-0 lead, Clay Holmes promptly giving 2 runs back. And now you're in this very similar game script that we've seen for the Mets, where it's a 1-run game. Your starter is a little shaky. Are they going to be able to get you through 5? Are they going to potentially get you through 6? You got to start the gears turning in the bullpen. Reed Garrett, Gregory Soto. We got to get guys ready because we don't know when the entire house of cards is going to come crumbling down. The difference tonight for Clay, though, he bounced back in a big way because in that 5th, it was a 1-2-3 inning. And I was ready to have the bullpen in that game in the 5th. It was the shortest of leashes for me after what we saw in the 4th. But then the 1-2-3 5th, I said, okay, we can let Clay Holmes go out there for the 6th inning. But the same rules apply, though. It's still a 3-2 game at that point. Got to manage this really tightly. First sign of trouble, probably should go to the bullpen. But it was another 1-2-3 inning for Clay Holmes. Got some help defensively. 2 really hard-hit balls. One that Lindor was able to snag it short. And we'll talk about the Mets defense in general tonight. And then Tyrone Taylor sprawling out, making a diving play. And I was ready to be done with Clay after 6. 6 innings, you did the thing. Time to go to the bullpen, protect a 1-run lead. But a 1-2-3 5th, a 1-2-3 6th. I was okay with Carlos Mendoza giving Clay the start of the 7th, and it was the first sign of trouble. The first base runner that got on, he had that bullpen ready to go, and that bullpen did a very nice job tonight for the New York Mets. And so it's just so simple when you get what you need to get from your starters. And I wouldn't say Clay Holmes wowed me tonight with his stuff, but he just did what Clay Holmes does. Gets ground balls, the ball gets put in play, trust the players behind you to make plays. It's a very different start than what the Mets got the night before, last night from Nolan McLean, but still getting to a very similar result. The quality from your starter giving the Mets a chance to win, and Clay Holmes checked that box. And it's really 2 straight starts. We said it after that Seattle start that he had, going 5 innings and 1 earned run, that was the ceiling for Clay. Well, he proved us wrong tonight. He proved that there is something a little more in that tank, even though he's throwing more innings than he's ever thrown in a season before. It has been 2 really good starts for Clay, and you start to wonder if he's now building that confidence and maybe he's gotten to the other side of that wall with his innings. And now this is what we're going to see from him. So again, there'll be some tweaks here. He allowed some hard hit contact as the game went on, but at the end of the day, worked around that trouble there in the third. And it was kind of annoying what happened there in the third. It was the bottom of the order that put some runners on. And then it was the weird play with Lindor getting the ball at second, but Acuna doing a nice job of beating the play out, so it loaded the bases. Pete knocked that ball down that should have been an out at first. So they had chances for it not to be 3-2. And so you're just kind of frustrated that it got to 3-2. And you were worried that that was going to kind of spiral for Clay, but it didn't. He had a really good fifth inning, a really good sixth inning, and then got an out into the seventh. And again, just gave the Mets what they needed. And we have not been able to say very often this year, but it's back-to-back days where the Mets got what they needed from their starter. The offense had a huge day. It was a huge day yesterday. They had a great follow-up act today. We'll talk about the 6 home runs. We'll talk about the 4 stolen bases. We'll talk about Starling Marte having a great night at the plate. We will get to all of it here on the other side. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-hour energy transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game, whether you're out on the course or you just need a little extra push to power you through the day. 5-hour energy transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5-hour energy transfusion gives you the best part of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down the bev cart. Now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. Back here on the Mets postcast, Chris Schubert with you, recapping the Mets' 9-2 victory over the Atlanta Braves, winning this series, taking the first 2. And I'll say this before we dive into the offensive output tonight, and the power was certainly on display. This feels good to have these 2 games in this ballpark, considering where we all thought this team stood after what happened in DC earlier this week. A show of the short-term memory that you kind of need to have at this point of the season. You need it in general over the course of 162. The season is just so long, you can't harp on things, but especially when there's a lot of scoreboard watching. Every game, even though it counts the same, feels like it matters a little bit more. You have to be able to forget what happened the night before and just go out there and play the best version of ball that you can. And with the way things finished up in DC, good to see the Mets have that short-term memory, get the good starting pitching, huge nights for the offense both nights, and understanding the importance of this moment and meeting it here in the first 2 games. And the offense certainly met the moment in a big way tonight. 6 home runs, a pair of multi-home run games. Mark Vientos goes deep twice, and boy, with Francisco Alvarez on the shelf, Jeff McNeil had a multi-home run game tonight as well, in and out of the lineup. Brendan Nimmo still sidelined. Just how refreshing is it to see Mark Vientos in that 4 spot, slugging, crushing a couple of home runs, and just being in the middle and involved in what the Mets are doing offensively. It's just a throwback to last year. It is a throwback to the player that the Mets had in the second half of 2024 and the player that was a very important member of what they did in the postseason. And with the way he's been hitting the ball lately, when you see the lineup and you see him hitting in the 4 spot, just feels good, feels refreshing, just feels right, feels like that's the way this is supposed to be. Tonight, the lineup, Lindor, Soto, Alonso back up in the 3 spot, and then Vientos right behind him. It just felt right. It felt like what this lineup was supposed to be all season. And it has not been the year that Mark Vientos would have wanted. Doesn't matter. What matters is he's contributing to this team right now. The power is there. The swing looks confident. And he did it again tonight with a pair of home runs. How about a guy with a banged up shoulder hitting a couple of home runs? And these were not just the garden variety home runs. A moonshot from Jeff McNeil. And I want to talk about the third inning of this game because that felt like the key turning point. The Mets had a huge chance in the third. They had a leadoff hit by Lindor to extend his hitting streak to 11. Soto draws a walk. Umpire not really giving the low strike in this one tonight. Then the double steal sets up second and third with nobody out, and you felt it early. That was going to be the moment. If the Mets cashed in there, you would have felt really good about the way the game was trending. If they didn't, you would have been worried about all of those bad things happening that have happened a lot lately when the Mets don't cash in those moments, and it was trending that way. Alonso grounded out. Vientos struck out. Worried that they were going to leave that opportunity empty-handed. Jeff McNeil would not let that happen. An absolute moonshot, handing the lead to Clay Holmes. The Mets are up 3-0, and they never looked back. So shout out to Jeff. Big night for him. Pete Alonso added a home run. Starling Marte. Let's talk about the night that Marte had. I mean, a great night in 6 innings of work. Doesn't even need to play 9 innings. Starting in left field. Shout out to Starling Marte going out there in left field tonight with Nimmo out. And they wanted to get Taylor in there for defense, I guess. Mullins also sidelined tonight. So they put Starling Marte out there, and he delivered in a big way. How about a 3-hit night for him hitting the home run? But perhaps the most important thing that he did in this game was in the bottom of that third inning, throwing out the runner at home plate. Just an absolute missile. Laser beam throw from Starling Marte to beat the runner to the plate and to keep the Braves scoreless. And that third inning just set the tone. Boom. We are not going to let an opportunity slip through our fingers with 2 outs. Big 3-run home run. And you are not going to claw back into this game and get a run on the board. So you got great 2-out hitting, which has been the Mets' calling card here as of late. And then you got excellent defense. And the Mets played great defense across the board tonight. Lindor, Beatty had a couple of nice plays at third, took care of a bunt very nicely in this one. And then Tyrone Taylor sprawling out there. What was that in the 6th inning? Diving catch to get out of that inning. Just some clean, solid, fundamental defense tonight from the Mets. And listen, baseball, it's a pretty easy sport when you do all the little things the right way. When you get good starting pitching, when you play good, sound defense. I mean, Pete Alonso, it didn't turn into an out, made a diving stop to potentially save extra bases. Might have just been a single. And they almost made a play at first base. Just some really good defense tonight from the Mets, and just all of the puzzle pieces were working tonight for this team. Want to hear from you. Jay Muse says, I know they keep saying Senga on regular rest, but could this be a ploy? I don't know. We'll see. It is certainly the time of year where you would do something like this, but we'll know the answer to this because Brandon Sproat's turn in the rotation is due up tomorrow. So if he makes that start, you'll know it's not a ploy. If he doesn't make that start, you'll know that they were playing a little bit of head games with Philly ahead of that series. My gut tells me that they're not playing head games with Philadelphia, that they want to at least one turn through go to their starters. Senga, this feels like one of his last chances to show us that he can be back to being the starter that the Mets need this season. There was a report before the game that Jonah Tong might be the next guy up for the Mets if they need to add somebody to either the rotation or to the bullpen. So that's certainly something to keep an eye on in this one as well. And I don't know. I don't think it is a ploy. I think that they want to try to go through this rotation. They're going to need a 6th starter at some point, and I wonder if they're doing this because they want McGill to have one more turn through, and they want McGill to be the 6th starter instead of calling up a Sproat or a Tong for just a one-off, right? With McGill right there around the corner. And this is different than Blackburn. I think there's more internal confidence in what McGill can give the team in the rotation. And so I wonder if one more spot start for him, and then that'll time up with him being able to make that start when Senga's turn comes up again. Remember, the Mets are in the middle of a stretch of playing 16 consecutive days. So they're going to need a 6th starter, I think, a couple of times here. The first time it's going to come up is Monday. Looks like they're going to keep everybody on regular rest. But I would not be surprised if the next go through, they will use that 6th starter, and that lines up with when they're thinking McGill could be back because they want him to make one more start. So that's what I think is going on here. I think with McGill being so close, they don't want to use Sproat for a one-off and send him back down, that they would rather try this, moving everybody through on regular rest and then using the 6th starter when McGill is ready to go. One other thing I want to note here before we get out of here, they did use Edwin Diaz tonight because he hadn't pitched in a little bit, and the 28 pitches is something to kind of circle, highlight, keep an eye on. If the Mets are in a close game tomorrow and they need Edwin Diaz to get some key outs. It does worry me that he threw nearly 30 pitches. And I do worry about him maybe coming into an outing tomorrow and not having that same sharpness. Now, again, it's been a while since he's made an appearance for the Mets, so hopefully pitching back-to-back days doesn't put him in a compromising position. But 28 pitches in a game where you're winning 9-2, you certainly would have rather avoided the lengthy at-bat. I believe it was by Drake Baldwin, and then the infield hit by Albies, just kind of prolonging things and not making it a quick, easy outing for Edwin. But good to see him out there. Good to see him get some work because it's been a little bit and should not compromise his availability for tomorrow. But I do wonder if the 28 pitches compromises his sharpness tomorrow. And the bullpen did a great job. Soto, excellent in his, he just continues to be awesome. 9 pitches to get 2 outs. He did walk somebody, but he just continues to be super solid out there. And I am clamoring for him to get some more high leverage work here, especially with Helsley and Garrett kind of scuffling here a little bit. I wonder if it's going to be Gregory Soto's turn here because he just keeps stacking up these really solid performances, giving the Mets exactly what they need out there. And then Tyler Rogers was excellent as well in his scoreless inning of work. The Mets, 2 in a row in a place that has been a house of horrors for them. And yet they stand right on the doorstep of a potential sweep. And the baton is getting passed to David Peterson for the finale of this one tomorrow. And if you could have anybody on the mound to try to go for a series sweep, it would be the guy who his last time out gave you 8 innings. The guy who's been your most consistent, most reliable, go-to starter all season long, has been the de facto ace of this staff. That's the guy that you turn to tomorrow to go for the series sweep. We will be right back here on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel and in the Locked On Mets podcast feed once the game is over to recap everything. We'll give Keith the final word here. He said, also during the broadcast, it looked like Mendoza and McNeil were jawing when he got removed for defensive replacement. Was he mad at being pulled? I don't think so. I think it was just a coach and a player talking about maybe some positioning things. I didn't read too much into it. They are covering their lips, their mouths to make sure that whatever they're talking about can't be decoded by anybody else. And Jeff is kind of a serious guy, kind of always feels like every conversation is a aggressive one, but I didn't read too much into it. I mean, with the shoulder stuff that's been going on, the Mets having a big lead, I think Jeff should understand being taken out in that game, in that spot. So I don't think that's what it was, but if we want to file it away in the stuff to keep an eye on, it did happen. I did notice it as well. We are back right here on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel tomorrow after the finale of this series. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell. You are notified when we go live here for the Mets Postcast. If you're listening to us in the podcast feed, we appreciate you. If you want to join us live, the moment the Mets game is over, I push that big red button that says go live, and we are here to talk Mets baseball with you after the game. It was another good night for the New York Mets. They checked all the boxes. A great outing from Clay Holmes, a huge night offensively, 6 home runs, 4 stolen bases. Mark Vientos with multi-home runs. Jeff McNeil with 2 home runs in this game. Just a top-to-bottom great performance after a top-to-bottom great performance last night from the New York Mets. Hopefully, they can keep things rolling. They have the perfect guy on the mound tomorrow in order to do so. Have a good one, Mets fans.